had the confidence to do it, but 30,000 hearts were in mouths at that point. And now Roy Keane, you can always depend on him. Duff in close attendance. Keane is fouled. Duff helping it on towards Finnan. Finnan facing Cuckoo. And a little cross in there, and it's come through here. McAteer!
What's going on, guys? My name is Eldon Nero, and welcome to a World Cup special episode of the Midnight Hour. I'm joined by my ordinary co-host. Well, I say ordinary. The guy who's always here, you know? He's always here.
Always here, knows absolutely nothing about football, so I'm the perfect person to be on a World Cup special.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Why should things change?
But what he lacks in football knowledge, he makes up for in facial hair. So, you know, even though you can't see that, deal with it. It works.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about kind of the current World Cup and maybe a little bit of predictions and what we're looking forward to and things like that. And probably along the way we'll reminisce about previous World Cups or whatever. We have a question for you at the start of this episode, and it's quite simply, who would you like to win the World Cup? Like, let's say you're English. Your answer is going to be England. You'd like England to win the World Cup, unless you're one of those people who comes from a country but doesn't support that country, which they do exist. So, I don't know. For me personally, I'm supporting Croatia. I don't know why. Like, in the year 1998 was the first World Cup that I actually properly watched, and Ireland didn't make it that year. But Croatia, like, did really well, and I've always just sort of enjoyed their tendency to perform really well as dark horses, and I've really liked all the players that have come through their team, like, over the last few years. Like, I don't know, even like Dario Serna. That guy is such a fucking hero of a player. And the team that was led to the 2006 World Cup by Slaven Bilic, and actually, no, was he Euro 2009? I don't know. But I love Slaven Bilic, I love Luka Modric, I love Ivan Rakitic, I love Serna, I love Charluka. All these players, they're all great. So I'm supporting Croatia. I assume you're supporting England.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be supporting England. Once we get knocked out, then I'll probably lose interest, in all honesty, until the final rolls around.
And cry.
Yeah.
A lot of crying.
A lot of crying.
Yeah, that's how it happens. But, a lot of players that are really, really good or really, really valuable are not going to make the World Cup. And I have a list in front of me. I'll actually put it on the screen if I have the foresight to remember that that's what I want to do. Most expensive player in the world at this current moment is not going to make it to the World Cup, and that's Gareth Bale, which is a shame to not see him there, but Wales don't really tend to do very well internationally, although they have had some amazing games over the last few years. I think, like, they've really upped their game in terms of, I think the Wales team now is a lot better than the Wales team of 2004. I don't know why I picked 2004, just an arbitrary 10 years ago type comment. But it is a shame to not have Ramsey and Bale at the World Cup, those types of players. I don't know, the other player that immediately jumps out at me, despite not being the second most valuable, is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I think the fact he's not going to be there is a real shame, because Sweden tend to do quite well at World Cups as well.
Yeah, they do. So they do. So, well, I'm not sure if I'd say surprisingly well. You know, they've got a fairly solid midfield, but you know they lack kind of all of the really important kind of parts that make up a decent squad. You know.
Yeah, they used to have a pretty solid team all around when Olaf Mellberg, and you know they had Freddie Ljungberg in midfield and Henrik Larsson up front. Those are three really good players in their positions, and always have been. Sweden actually get England in their group stages every year, don't they? That's a thing that happens.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, would have been interesting to see Zlatan against whoever the English defenders are going to be this time around. Like, I don't know, England don't have a right back really, because, well,
Glenn Johnson is god awful.
Yeah, I mean, he's a right back in the strict sense, but he's not really what I would even describe as a footballer.
No, do you know what? I watched the last two England friendlies, which were against Ecuador and Honduras.
Yeah.
And James Milner played right back for
the Ecuador game.
The Ecuador game, and did a pretty bad job.
Yeah, and do you know, I really like James Milner.
Yeah, I really like James Milner. I think he's I think he, you know, you can clearly see that he works hard when he's on the pitch.
He does.
He really kind of does. He does deserve to be in the England squad. Not at right back.
No,
but he definitely deserves to be there.
No one deserves to be in the England squad at right back, though. That's a fact. Nobody's good enough to play right back for England.
No, but like I kind of watched James Milner kind of play at right back, and I kind of thought, okay, well, at least Glenn Johnson's slightly better than this.
Yeah.
And then the Honduras game rolls around, and Glenn Johnson did not want to give up the worst right back in England position to James Milner.
No, he did not.
And goddamn, he played a hell of a game keeping that trophy.
He's just... do you know what I found really interesting about the Honduras game, right, is that I know England is, like, I know ITV and BBC, like, they're based in England, so they're obviously going to be biased towards England. That's just a fact. That it happens in every country. Like, the Irish studio pundits tend to be biased for Ireland. You know, you want the best for your country. That's just the thing that happens. But Andy Townsend, you know, when the England-Honduras game, for anyone who doesn't know, it was not postponed, but they took a 30-minute break after 22 minutes because of an electrical storm, which is fair enough. You have to look out for the players' safety.
And the fans as well in the stadium.
Exactly, yeah. Especially when you've got a lot of, like, telecommunication and all, you know, ring around. Like, a lot of people were kind of complaining about that, like, yeah, well, it's not a big chance that they could get hit by lightning. It's like, there's a chance though, and they will die. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of metal running around inside the stadium,
exactly.
And metal's a conductor for electricity. So, you know, I think it's fairly safe to assume that was the right decision to make.
No one wants to pay out a lawsuit on it, like.
Yeah, exactly.
But Andy Townsend was, after England came back, you know, well, both teams came back and they played, and, like, neither team was that good, really. You could tell neither team was taking it overly seriously either.
I'd say that Honduras was throwing in a lot of not dangerous maybe.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Very, very tough tackles, which is a ridiculous thing to do the week before the World Cup.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and there's, you know, you've seen a lot of you've seen a few players in the coming games. I don't know if you know about this, but Mexican midfielder Luis Montes, I think it was.
I'm not sure.
That name rings a bell in my head. I think he went in for a tackle last week in a friendly and broke his leg.
Oh fuck.
So he's out for the World Cup.
Oh, that sucks.
You know, and you know, there's things like that you know, people just throwing in reckless tackles and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Why?
Even Sterling did it and got sent off against Ecuador.
Yeah,
which is just crazy.
And you'd expect Valencia as a captain, as the captain, to have a cooler head than to try and throttle Sterling.
Yeah, sure. What can you do? Man United versus Liverpool, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
But Townsend was saying, like, you know, I think the break served Honduras well. It gave them a chance to regroup and work on their tactics, and that's why England haven't really done it in this half. It's like, yeah, because England didn't go in and work on their tactics or anything like that. Like, you know, they just walked in and had a pizza, sat down, watched TV, and then realised they had to play the rest of the game. Like, just such a stupid comment to make, like, to defend England. Like, nobody is judging England harshly for that result, really, apart from, like, you know, diehard England fans or whatever. But it's a friendly at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, that was, I don't know how we even got on to talk about that.
I don't know. I feel like the England games should have been seen as more of getting them used to running around for 90 minutes in the heat.
In the heat, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that no team really has started training in Brazil earlier than, you know, like a few days before. That's sort of taken me by surprise a little bit.
Well, I know I've seen that the while they were in Miami, the England team were training outside in full tracksuits.
Oh, really?
In the middle of the day, full tracksuits to kind of get them used to that kind of just sweating the fuck out, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Another player not making it is Robert Lewandowski. He's going to be he's a really fucking good player, you know. A lot of people think he's kind of a donkey, but he's actually really, you know, he's technically good. He's agile as well. Like, he'll surprise you a lot, I think. Yeah,
he is. He's got that kind of power as well.
Yeah.
Not just in, you know, his shot, but also, you know, he's fairly decent at holding off a defender.
Yeah.
You know, on a run. And let's not forget, you know, we're looking at a list of the most expensive players to miss the World Cup, but you've also got, you know, the whole the Polish Dortmund contingency of Piszczek and Błaszczykowski as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got those two missing out, and players like Szczesny as well for Poland.
Yeah, true.
Missing out.
And more importantly, Artur Boric, who won't make it either,
yeah.
Which is the real miss. David Alaba, I think he is a fucking incredible footballer.
He is. He's only 21, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but unfortunately, he's probably never going to make it to a World Cup.
No, well, Austria made it to, was it 2006? I think that, oh no, maybe I'm thinking about Switzerland, actually. No, maybe Austria made it to a Euro competition. I don't know, but it is a shame. Like they were in Ireland's group of qualifying for, I think it was 2012, and like I saw Alaba played in midfield for Austria, and you could just see his quality. He was unbelievable. He scored in one of the games, and he just, I don't know, he's a fucking immense footballer. I love watching him. I love Bayern Munich, like in general, but Alaba just is, like, he's really at home in that Bayern team, and that says a lot about his quality, really, given how good their squad is. We also have the Serbian quadrant.
Yeah,
that's a word, right?
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
Of Nastasic, Subotic, Ivanovic, and Matic, and it's a shame that none of them are going to be there. Hamzik and Handanovic also, they're going to miss. It would have been really good to see Hamzik. I don't really see a lot of Serie A football anymore. Like, I just tend to not watch it for whatever reason. I think it's because I know Juventus are going to win it, and even though I'm kind of a hypocrite for saying that because I watch the SPL, but it's going to be a shame to not see any of those players, really. Shout out to Arda Turan as well. I remember Turkey have always been quite good. They finished third in the 2002 World Cup. Like, they made it to the semis where they got beaten by the eventual winners Brazil. So it's going to be a shame to not see them. Like, I really liked their team when they had the likes of Nihat and players like that. But should we move on to the players who are going to miss through injury?
Yeah, and that's a hell of a list.
Yeah, this is the first. Like, Frank Ribéry is the most recent one, isn't he? Or yeah, probably.
I think so. Yeah, or Marco Reus.
Yeah, Ribéry. I've already seen him on the international stages. He was great in 2006. He was great at Euro 2008, I think. He is a great player, no doubt about it. But I'm much more. I sympathise much more with Marco Reus missing it, because I think he would have just brought that little bit more, and there's a little bit more excitement around him and stuff, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Marco Reus, kind of, Germany are quite, lucky to be incredibly rich in the midfield, regardless of where it is left, right, or in the centre.
Yeah.
And they've still got Schürrle on the left as well to bring something, special onto the pitch. But the kind of players like a couple of England players, especially Jay Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Got to feel really sorry for, and kind of Theo Walcott as well, seeing as he was called up before. Well, he was called up, but kind of before he was really ready.
Yeah.
Back in, God, when was that?
It was months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, he was called up. It was years ago, but he was called up before he was ready, and then missed out the next one.
You're right. The 2006 World Cup. Sven brought him over and didn't play him at all, which was just a noob move.
Yeah.
And then in 2010 he didn't make it, which that was the long ball to Heskey World Cup from England. And it's a shame that Theo wasn't there. Walcott has always been criticised for being the type of player who, quote, hasn't got a football brain, unquote, and he's only an athlete or whatever. But you watch any game over the last 2 seasons, not any game, but like Walcott's form in general over the last 2 seasons has been fucking awesome, and he is a great player, I think, and he is a blow for England for sure. Jay Rodriguez I'm not sure about, because I think Sterling has really come into his own this season. I think he's been class. And I'd rather bring him over Jay Rodriguez. Even they might be playing in slightly different positions, but I think the way it works out is that you would take either Sterling or Jay, and I'd go for Sterling personally.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I mean, he kind of got the call up, and you never know what he might have been able to do. If he'd made it slightly further into the end of the season, hit the trio of Rodriguez, Lallana, and Lambert has been a pretty decent one for Southampton this year.
Yeah, it has for sure.
And even if you're bringing one or two of them on together, there's still that knowledge of how each other play, and deeper knowledge of having the kind of teammates in the team. I think a lot of I think a lot of people kind of overlook kind of the idea of having people who play with each other and with each other day in, day out,
yeah,
and play together a lot. I think people undervalue that kind of connection.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what worked wonders for Spain, really, with their, because I remember before Fabregas went to Barcelona, 2010 I think it was, Sergio Busquets got into the team ahead of Fabregas in the Spain team, and everyone thought that was ludicrous. I don't, because Sergio Busquets is the best CDM in the world, like, personally. But that trio of the Spanish midfield, Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets, like, nobody could touch them in 2010. They were literally the best in the world, and that's a huge reason why Spain won the World Cup, was how well they all played, really. Who else do we have? Falcao is not going to make it, and that's official now, which is a huge blow to Colombia.
Yeah, they took their big target man up front.
Yeah, it's man, it's such a shame. Like I've said that about 50 times already, but Falcao is a huge miss. I think again, because he's playing in France, I think a lot of people tend to underrate him, even though he only played in Spain quite recently. But for him to miss a World Cup is it's bad. I don't know. Falcao is a football manager legend, and everyone's known about him for years. The next time a World Cup rolls around, he's going to be 32 years old, and might be just too old for him to make an impact on it. Although having said that, Ibra is quite old, and he would have made an impact, I think. Who else we have? Nico Kranjčar will miss it for Croatia. I don't think he'll be a huge miss for them. I think that they can do all right without him.
Van der Vaart's going to miss it for the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's it.
It's always nice to have another a fairly solid midfielder.
Yeah, the Netherlands have a great midfield overall.
They do.
They didn't bring Virgil van Dijk though, bastards. So, Tom Rogic misses for Australia. I guess he's highly rated by Australians in general. Like, he seems to be one of those players who comes with a huge reputation. He came from the Nike Academy or whatever it was. He played for Celtic. I saw him play for Celtic. He was alright, but he never shined, in the way that people had bigged him up to. So I'm not sure he's going to be a huge loss, but it would have been nice to see him regardless, because it is good to see younger players like that. Who's not actually going to the World Cup, and it's not because of injuries? It's Landon Donovan.
Yeah, he's not been chosen by
Klinsmann, isn't it?
Klinsmann, no.
I know why he's doing it. Is because Klinsmann, supposedly he has a contract for the next World Cup. Like, he's already signed a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
So he can. I think what he's doing is just taking the younger players to get them World Cup experience. Which is...
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's just a shame for Landon Donovan, because I remember the USA in 2002. I really liked the USA in 2002, actually. They did really well. They got out of their group and got eliminated by Germany, as far as I remember. And in 2006, they didn't do what they could have done. Like, they didn't, they weren't as good as they could have been. But they have a fucking fairly solid crop of players. I think that would surprise you. A lot of people look down on the MLS as well, because it's a retirement home or whatever. But
yeah,
it's not the worst.
Well, the MLS has now made a couple of fairly big signings. They're bringing over some big players. David Villa's signed for New York Red Bulls.
No, New York City FC it is.
Oh yeah, New York City FC.
Yeah.
And so is Frank Lampard, I think.
Has he actually officially signed?
I don't know, but there's a lot of from Chelsea sources coming saying that.
Yeah, I've seen all the.
A lot of people are going over there, and that's all. It's all well and good to say it's a it's a retirement home, but these are still top level players.
Yeah, they are, without a doubt.
Regardless of whether the fact that they're 24, 25, or if they're starting to hit their mid 30s.
Yeah.
But I've completely blanked on what I was going to say. Oh yeah, but Donovan missing out on the World Cup is it's not great for him. But there's I've seen rumours on Reddit saying that he's going to be hosting or helping host the American coverage on ESPN for the whole of the World Cup as a pundit.
Well, that's the next best thing.
And yeah, if this because if he's a decent pundit, then it'll be nice especially for the American game to have this kind of a US legend, as it were, on TV promoting the game and giving a decent rundown of what's actually happening.
I was actually watching I forget what it was. I was watching a football match once on a US stream, legally obviously, and Brad Friedel was the one of the pundits, and he did a pretty good job. He's surprisingly, it's hard to say, I think, when you're watching a pundit for the first time how good they are, but he was alright. I thought he was alright. The Spanish players missing Thiago Alcantara obviously and Jesse Rodriguez. I'm not sure either of them would have been first choice. Thiago really shined. Is it Sean? He really shone in a in the, was it the under-21s tournament, I think. Yeah, he was fucking amazing in that. I remember I was in town one day and I was walking through a shopping centre and there was like a TV showing one of the games live. I think it was the one where he scored 2 goals, I think. And I just couldn't stop watching it because Thiago was so good. He played in that sort of centre attacking midfield role and he was quality. It would have been nice for him to get some World Cup experience because he's definitely one for the future and everybody knows that.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, against the rest of the Spain side, they'd be coming on as kind of like a, they'd be coming on as a sub or in the quote unquote less important games where they're playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Potentially easier teams.
Like, this is a team where Juan Mata isn't first choice position, so
yeah.
It's Ilkay Gundogan, we all knew he was going to miss it anyway. He missed the entire season, it's bad for him because he was actually in really fucking good form before that happened as well. I don't know, the still not clear list is quite interesting because Luis Suarez is in there. A lot of people suspect that he's going to miss the first game, which is not against England, if I'm right. Uruguay's first game is it's Italy and England in the first game.
Yeah, Uruguay's first game is against Costa Rica.
That's right, yeah. I predict, by the way, I'm going to make a bold prediction exclusively on the midnight hour. I think the game will have already been played by the time that this episode is live, so just for clarity...
It will have done, yeah.
We're recording this before...
No, the England and the...
It's on the Saturday.
The England and the Uruguay games are on the Saturday, so this will go out just before.
Well, my prediction for the England game tomorrow is 0-0 draw.
I think that's a pretty likely scenario. Yeah. To be honest, I don't see England being able to nick a goal. I could see it. I'm being a pessimist. I could see Italy nicking a goal quite easily.
Yeah, maybe. I sort of Italy tend to start their World Cups off slowly. They are very tactically astute, I think, and Italy tend to have a psychological edge, I think. I don't know what it is, like, this is just me waffling pretty much, but it's just like I've seen every World Cup including 98 and supposedly I watched 94, but I don't remember that. But I just think I know how Italy play, and both teams will be wary of Uruguay, and I think that'll make them not want to go for it, because if you go for it and sacrifice a point, it won't be good for you in the long run. Like, the game is going to be 3-3 now because we've said this, but that's what I think anyway. But Luis Suarez should be available for the England game as far as I'm aware. I'm not entirely sure. Diego Costa is a huge injury risk. He went off on the last day of the La Liga season against Barcelona after 7 minutes, and he didn't last long in the Champions League final either.
No, what was that? What was that, about 19 minutes he lost in the Champions League final? So, but he's had a horse placenta injection or something into his knee.
Fucking hell.
To help him. And so did Luis Suarez apparently. There's some horse placenta fucking drug thing that is meant to help regrow the cells or something ridiculous.
That sounds like something you're making up.
I'm not. I promise you, Diego Costa is part horse, and Luis Suarez definitely is.
It's actually true. They are both pretty horsey looking people.
So should we have a chat through the groups and see who we think will make it out of each group?
Yeah, let's do this.
So Group A is Brazil, the obvious hosts, Croatia, Mexico, and Cameroon.
Well, I think Cameroon will top that group.
Definitely.
This is a tough group, right? Because Croatia are a really good squad, and they're being managed by Niko Kovac, who is a fairly young, in terms of manager, he's young. And former players managing teams at World Cups tends to work. Like, I remember Rudi Voller taking Germany to the final in 2002 as manager. It just has this weird sort of thing. I think it's to do with the players' unity and stuff. And that experience that they've had in World Cups themselves. So I don't want to rule out Croatia, but Mexico are always really good in World Cups. They always have these players that sparkle at the World Cup. Like, they mightn't even do it for their clubs regularly, but they'll always seem to come to form at the World Cup. And I like Cameroon a lot. Like, I've always liked them, but I don't think they're making out of this group. I think it's Mexico and Croatia are going to fight for second place. I reckon Croatia will just make their way out of it. I think Brazil are going to get a heavy win against Mexico.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I mean, I'm expecting with the likes of, Oscar, just in general, the Brazil midfield and Neymar up front. Just, Neymar always does well in international competitions. It seems
he was unbelievable at the Confederations Cup, wasn't he?
Yeah, the man is, I don't know what it is about playing for Brazil, putting on that Brazil shirt, but he's going to absolutely terrorise. He's going to absolutely terrorise Cameroon's defence.
Yeah, I really hope so.
And
he'll
probably absolutely terrorise everybody's defence, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I really want to see a huge performance from him over the whole tournament, because I think he's a player who gets not a lot of stick as such. Like, everyone knows he dives, whatever, but let's face it, every fucking player dives in football. That's a thing that happens. Like, you'd think that Rooney doesn't dive, or that Suarez doesn't dive, or whoever. Yes, Neymar does it a lot, but he also just gets undervalued as a footballer, I think. Like, a lot of people just, for whatever reason, just think that he is overrated.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at the when he first came to Barcelona, everyone was writing him off as having is going to have no chance against the European defenders because they were bigger, more physical, and he's just he's short, he's slight, he's not, he was never going to cope. And while he hasn't kind of had the quite blockbuster season that I think people were really expecting, he's done he's done a solid job at Barcelona.
Yeah, he has, for sure, no doubt.
People seem to just overlook completely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really watch Barcelona, and they just come out with these armchair opinions like, Busquets is overrated, and all just shit like that people say. But it is hard to stand out in Barca's front line when you consider they've got Iniesta, Alexis Sanchez, and some other guy from Argentina. Some Lionel Clean or something. But I mean, you really can't write off Croatia either, especially if Modric plays like he has been for Real Madrid this season. Yeah, and Rakitic too.
Yeah, that kind of midfield duo will be, a hell of a thing. Especially with Modric playing. Just kind of, I mean, if anyone's watched, I haven't watched Real Madrid religiously at all, but I've watched a lot of highlight reels and tried to catch whatever I can, and Modric has really done a massive job for Real Madrid this season.
Yeah, he has. And it just occurred to me as well that Mandzukic will be playing up front for them. So, I'm gonna go for Croatia finishing second in that group. And
yeah, I think I'd agree with you, to be honest.
Mexico will finish third and drop out into the UEFA Cup. That's how it works. We move on to Group B.
Yeah,
it's the big
sure.
group. Spain, the Netherlands, Chile, and Australia. Spain lost the first game in the 2010 World Cup against Switzerland. They lost 1-0. And Chile are a really good side. They have some really good players, and obviously the same with the Netherlands. I think this group, there's going to be a surprise in this group, and I don't know what I even mean when I say that. I just think that, I don't know, I don't think Spain are going to win the group. I don't think they're going to top the group. I think they might have to claw their way out of it. I think something weird like that is going to happen. That's like a bold prediction I'm making.
No matter what is going to happen that no one expects, Australia aren't going to win a game.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that out there, Australian people are great and everything, but God bless you, you're awful at football.
They did great in 2006.
Yeah, but they're against Spain, the Netherlands, and Chile. They're not going to win. They're not going to win a game. I'm sorry, but they're just not.
It's Harry Kewell's last ever. I think he's retiring after the World Cup as well, but he's going to the World Cup. I think he's 35 now, which is crazy. But he's going to be playing, so I think he could nick a goal or two against the right team. But there is no right team in that group. It's a very tough group. You're looking at Spain and the Netherlands realistically, but it's in South America, and no European team has ever won a World Cup in South America. So I really think that we need this World Cup. I'm falling out of love with football more and more every day, and one thing that brings football fans not together, because that sounds lame, but one thing that just brings football fans true opinions, and for the purists, I think the World Cup is just a fucking great, exciting tournament, and I'm really excited for this one. And I have a feeling that there's just going to be a lot of surprises, and looking at Group B, I just think that it's not as obvious as it looks. But I'm not. I like saying all this stuff. I'm just not bold enough to make a prediction that's gonna. I want to say Spain are not gonna make it out of the group, but I don't know if I even believe that. I just think it's something.
Realistically, Spain are gonna make it out of the group.
Yeah, I know.
But who would you say is gonna come second and go with them?
I reckon it'll be the Netherlands. I just think Van Gaal is a really good manager. He knows what he's doing, and I think this will be a big tournament for him too. I think I think it'll be the Netherlands and Spain.
I'm gonna disagree. I think Chile could make it out of the group.
Really?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I think Vidal, Sanchez. There's so many more players that I can't bother to list off, but
yeah.
Chile have got some really exciting players.
They do, and I don't think the Netherlands' defence is amazing.
All that great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the pace could really bother. If Heitinga is going, he's in the World Cup Ultimate Team mode. I was surprised to learn. I don't know. I think a lot of their defenders would be outpaced significantly by the likes of Gonzalez and Sanchez if they start.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw an article the other day from Van Persie saying, going into the game against, I think they play Australia first. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, they don't. They play Spain first.
They did a great job.
I've just checked myself and corrected myself. So, but it's the kind of the article kind of said, Van Persie was quoted as saying, I'm not worried about being slightly injured going into a game. I haven't played without pain in the last few years. And it's you can't say things like that.
Yeah, what are you doing going
and expect to be considered as a serious contender if you're going in going, my legs hurt a lot and they always have, but I've managed.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. That just doesn't. I don't know. That kind of really threw me off of thinking that. I don't know. It's something about. I know Van Persie isn't the star child of the squad, but it does kind of throw some disillusion into the kind of the mix, I guess, for me.
What do you think? Because Spain are playing the Netherlands as the first game in that group, do you think that will be a draw as well? I sort of get a feeling that'll be a draw.
I think that Spain will win it 1-0.
It's going to be obviously it's a replay of the 2010 final, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Those games tend to go down pretty well. Yeah,
I think especially if Costa's fit, with Costa up front, and he'll put in a shift regardless of whether he's fully fit or not, and with the service that the likes of Iniesta can give him, it's going to be difficult for the Netherlands defence, to be honest.
I think Costa is quite an interesting thing for Spain because, not only is he actually Brazilian and it's going to be in Brazil and all that stuff, but he's not actually. If you look at Spain's team and the way they've played over the last few years, Costa's not actually a perfect fit in the sense that
he's not really a requirement.
No, he's not what you would. He wouldn't be your first choice,
No, yeah, but I mean,
it seems like they're working him in, to actually make him first choice. So
yeah,
that'll be quite good.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if Spain use their style from the last few years, they're going to get found out. I think the world has just adapted to tiki-taka now, and I think that's why Bayern didn't do that well. Well, they did well in the Champions League, but they got destroyed by Real Madrid. And I think that's why Barcelona got destroyed by Bayern Munich the year before that. I think the world just knows how tiki-taka works now, and that could be a bad sign for Spain. That's kind of why I sort of think that they'll struggle a little bit, but I could be completely fucking wrong,
No, yeah. Should we move on to Group C then?
Yes.
This is the group of Colombia, Greece, the Ivory Coast, and Japan.
Yeah. Japan always do something awesome in the World Cup. They're a fantastic team to watch in tournaments, I think.
I mean, I watched the highlights from one of their friendlies. I can't remember who they played against, but seeing Honda and Kagawa in midfield was both of them played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
They were both doing some pretty special stuff as far as I remember.
Colombia might be missing Falcao, but they do have Adrian Ramos, who had a great season in the Bundesliga, which resulted in... Am I right in saying that he's transferred to Borussia Dortmund?
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's...
but I wouldn't be too sure.
Yeah. I think he signed some pre-contract deal or something like that. They have Jackson Martinez, obviously I mentioned him. They've got Cuadrado, they've got James Rodriguez, who's a really highly rated young player. Abel Aguilar, who plays in the French league as well.
Guarin.
Yeah, that's right, Guarin. Yeah, who scored a fucking belter the other day. And there's Ibarbo as well, every FIFA player's favourite player. Everyone on FIFA hates him, but everyone on FIFA uses him. I actually haven't used him at all yet this year.
Neither have I. I should probably get onto that.
But Greece have Georgios Samaras, who is this generation's Pele, I believe he's been described as. Greece surprised everyone in 2004, but I don't think they're going to surprise anyone this year.
I really don't think so, no.
Well, who do you think is going to make it out of this group? It's a real tough one to call. You can't really write off anything.
Yeah, that really is a tough one. I mean, I'd like to see Japan make it out of it, but I mean, you got Toure in midfield for the Ivory Coast and
Seydou Doumbia as well.
Wilfred Boney's in the team.
Yeah.
You still got Drogba's still made the team, and you got Tiote as well in midfield.
Yeah, they actually have quite a fucking good team.
Yeah, I think I'd be tempted to say that without Falcao, Colombia might struggle, but realistically, Greece haven't got a chance. I'm gonna throw that out there. I mean, I reckon it might be Ivory Coast and Colombia that make it out, but I'd like to see maybe Japan make it out instead of Colombia.
I'm gonna say Japan and Colombia, just for the lols, really.
Yeah.
Then we've got Group D. This is the big one because this is kind of the group of death, really. Well, I guess it depends on your interpretation because Group B could also be considered it. But Uruguay, England, and Italy are huge teams. Costa Rica obviously in there as well. They don't really fare very well at World Cups. But I'm calling England and Italy getting out of this group. I don't think Uruguay are going to do it. As much as I'd love them to, like they're kind of a cult kind of team. They won the first World Cup. They're really enjoyable to watch. I loved them in 2010. I
mean, having the likes of Suarez, Cavani, and Forlan, up front is definitely a sizable strike force. No matter how you pair them up.
Yeah.
I just don't think they've got I'd hate to say they haven't got a well-rounded enough team and then talk about England, but
I think England have a more
rounded team.
Yeah, well then, like I always forget that Diego Godin and Cáceres are both going to be playing in defence for Uruguay, and then in midfield they have Christian Rodriguez, who plays for Atletico. They've got Walter Gargano, and well, Gaston Ramirez. He's very inconsistent, so I don't know. I think their midfield is probably lacking, but Gargano is a really good player. That Alvaro Gonzalez, I haven't really seen a lot of.
I mean, they didn't do too well in qualifying.
No.
They came in behind Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Ecuador.
How the fuck did they
qualify.
Make it to the World Cup if you finish 5th in your fucking group? I know they do it as all one group over there, but it's just fucking mental. Like
they finished 5th in the group, level on points with Ecuador, but only behind on goal difference.
Yeah. It is a tough group though.
I'd like to say that England will really step up and come out of the group. I'm gonna say second.
I'll say first. I'll say England will top the group.
I really don't think. I think we'll manage to throw a game somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
And hopefully that will be the game that's thrown out the window early on, and then from then on we kind of really perform.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd like to see player, kind of a Ross Barkley get a decent game in, but he's too inconsistent.
He's a weird player. Like
people like I've spoken to my friends recently watching the England game in the pub the other day, the one that was not called off but postponed slightly for the Storm.
Yeah.
People were saying, Barkley needs to be on the team sheet. He needs to be, in the starting 11, and he really doesn't. He's too inconsistent. This is. Am I right in saying this is his first World Cup?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, well, of course he's only 20. Jesus Christ. But he's only had 4 caps for England.
Yeah.
And he's even for Everton. Yeah, he's had some great games, but he's not consistent enough.
He's what I've found about him is that when he's on form, like, he is really, really good and really exciting. But he's sometimes, if I've noticed in the faster games, he really struggles to get to grips with the pace of it. I noticed it against Arsenal, the Everton against Arsenal game. It was the one at Goodison Park, I think, where Barkley came off the bench. Now, he was only on the pitch for about 20 minutes, but he just never ever got a hold of the game. And when he got the ball, he attempted these Hollywood passes, the the Gerrard type, where it's like, oh, I'll hit it 40 yards up here for some reason. He did a lot of that, and I think that's, I don't know if he's mature enough, but he can be definitely an exciting player. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain is one that I'm really looking forward to seeing playing, even though he's a doubt injury-wise.
He showed, I think I read somewhere that he would be fit for the World Cup. He'll be fit now that he's they gave him the initial kind of 10 days to 3 weeks recovery time.
Yeah, I read that too.
But I think I've definitely seen that people are saying that he's definitely back on, back into getting things on the right roads to being at the kind of 10 days end of things.
I hope so, because I
really hope so.
I really like Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah, I mean he really showed, even if you just look at the one single run, do you remember that one single run he did against Bayern?
Yes.
In the it was the Champions League, and he just tore them apart straight down the middle.
Yeah, he's a classy player, I think.
Yeah, and that was kind of really nice to watch, and kind of think that he'll be going to the World Cup, and I hope he does kind of show that kind of talent as well. And I don't think that Rooney should be starting as striker.
No, I think
he needs to play like a behind Sturridge.
I really think that Sturridge and Welbeck should be up front for England, and I know like a lot of people like to have a joke and think Welbeck is shit and all of that, but the thing is, he actually has a great record for England. And I know, again, well, like, all of those goals were against Liechtenstein or whatever, but they weren't. Like, he's had some great performances against big teams, and I think because of that he should still play. But I think it should be Welbeck and Sturridge and then Rooney in behind, or whatever way it works.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it'd be more like Sturridge up front with, say, maybe Lallana, Rooney, and then Ox, the three behind, with Lallana and Ox playing out wide, and then say Wilshere and Gerrard in behind them in a kind of like a 4-2-3-1 maybe.
It's really hard for, like, I think that Welbeck deserves to be in the team because, and people are going to think I'm crazy, right? But last season, Danny Welbeck, that was his best season ever, and he was playing on the left of midfield. It was his best season ever in terms of goals per game. He didn't play in his natural position, and he played on the left of midfield in a rigid 4, like a bank of 4 in midfield. He played on the left-hand side. He's a fucking striker. He shouldn't be playing there. But he says that when he plays on the left for England, it's as part of a front trio, so he can play on the left but drift forward and get into good positions to score. And I think that's like exactly what you would equate his performances are always good for England regardless of who he's playing. Like, right, fair enough, he didn't do well against Honduras, but let's face it, nobody did. There was no player against Honduras who particularly sparkled, like, and that's just that. I think Welbeck deserves a run in the team, and I think it'd be unfair given that he was kind of first choice. Like, he played in a lot of England games in the build-up. Like, remember, this build-up lasts for 2 years, but he did play a key role in their qualification, and it's just kind of unfair to kick him out now just because Lallana has come in and whatever. But I think I'd go for Sturridge, Welbeck and Rooney, but I don't know. You just mentioned some players that I'd have a really hard time letting go of as well, so it's really tough for Hodgson to decide. And ultimately, that will be
it's rare. It's fairly rare that England are kind of in a position to kind of go, should we have this player over this player?
Yeah.
Well, I think past a few years, it's always been, this is going to be who it is.
It has to be Rooney and Heskey.
Yeah, Rooney and Heskey up front,
Owen and Heskey,
and just thump the long balls to them.
Yeah. Have we, like, for anyone who's complaining or like a little unhappy that we're spending so much time talking about England, like, Jack is English and most of the people listening are English, so it's just the way. And plus, like, most people know more about the Premier League than any other league. Like, well, most people in my audience or whatever it is. So that's just why that happened.
Yeah, forgive me for knowing more about the country that I support than any other.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it'll be England and Italy, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah. Group E is Switzerland, Ecuador, France, and
I
Honduras.
think it'll be Switzerland and Ecuador that make it out of that. France will have a good World Cup. They do this thing where they won it in 98. They were fucking awful in 2002. I think they only scored 1 goal in 2002. Made it to the final in 2006 and just embarrassed the entire country in the year 2010, where they turned up but they did fuck all for it. And they fucking got there because of Henry's hand. But in this World Cup, going by that logic, they should have a good World Cup because they do one on and one off, evidently. And I think Remy Cabella is going to really inspire, given that he's been called up instead of Ribéry. I think he'll have a good tournament for that reason alone.
Yeah, and I think that France, nobody seems to be talking about the France squad. You know, a lot of people on the internet, they'll see talking about Belgium, about Belgium being a great squad, but I mean, Benzema is in the form of his life at the moment.
Yeah.
Playing up front, for Real Madrid. Pogba, just rising through the ranks in a massive way. You've got a decent amount of defenders there. I mean, Evra has got a lot of experience at a high level, and he usually performs fairly well for France. I mean, there's definitely a lot of players in there that have a lot of, there's a lot of young players as well with a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be silly to not pay attention to France this World Cup. I mean, didn't they play a match a couple of days ago when we were recording this, but I think they beat Jamaica 8-0.
Yeah, that's right.
Or something.
Although fairness,
and there was
beat Jamaica 8-0.
yeah, that's very true.
But they have like Griezmann as well as another player.
Griezmann, yeah.
They do have a really good squad, and I think they will have a good tournament regardless. I think the Swiss have a really good lineup as well this year. Jan Sommer is a decent enough goalkeeper. I think he's not going to be their starter keeper, but as a backup he is. They've got Lichtsteiner, who is playing amazingly in Serie A, or at least, it was the season before the season just passed. Lichtsteiner had a really good year. Reto Ziegler is a player I've always liked, even though I don't particularly know how well he plays, in all honesty. But Ricardo Rodriguez had a great season for Wolfsburg. And then you've got Djourou, who I don't really know a lot about, but he continues to be playing in the Bundesliga, so he must be alright. And then there's Senderos, and the less said about him, the better. But in midfield, they have a really exciting midfield. They've got, even the likes of Gelson Fernandez, he's kind of a cult player, but they've got Zamali, Barami, Inler, Tranquillo Barnetta, and Zerdan Shaqiri, and they're all exciting players. Zerdan Shaqiri is fucking awesome, and it's going to be great to see him at a World Cup. Up front, they have Haris Seferovic, who is a donkey in FIFA, but supposedly he's good in real life, so I'll go along with that. But I think they'll do quite well in the group anyway. Yeah.
In the group, I think they'll do well. I'm not sure how they'll fit. They'll definitely not fare well against France. But then again, I don't think anyone in this group will.
No.
France will come out of the group outright winners.
I reckon so.
With no issue. With no problem. Honduras will finish bottom of the group, I reckon.
Yeah, they will.
Unless they somehow manage to foul their way to victory.
they're not even for the squad that they have. They're not actually that bad. They just they're not good enough to set the world alight or anything. Ecuador could be a surprise package though. They did really well against England. They got a draw in that game. So did Honduras though. So.
So what's that saying?
Exactly. I don't know. They have a nice little pool of players. I think a lot of people, if you were to have an all Ecuador team on FIFA, you do pretty well. But not that counts for fucking anything. But they've got Caicedo up front. They've got the likes of Rojas in midfield and Edison Mendes as well. He's a big player for them. But I don't know. I think they'll do okay. I don't expect them to get out. I think it'll be Switzerland and France though.
Yeah, I'd like to see Switzerland make it out of the group. I think that'd be.
I don't know though if that's because I have a sort of Eurocentric view on it. I am forgetting from time to time that this is happening in South America, where Ecuador, Ecuador finished ahead of Uruguay, didn't we say, on goal difference? So they it's in South America. That's where they could be pretty good, I think.
Well, I mean, look at it this way: Switzerland finished top of their group.
That's true. Yeah.
Although that's not really saying much, seeing as it was Iceland, Slovenia, Norway, Albania, and Cyprus.
True.
You know, but it'll be that one will definitely be interesting.
Yeah, it will.
Kind of a proper fight of the underdogs almost.
We move on to Group F.
Yeah, sure. This is the group of Argentina, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Iran, and Nigeria.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Argentina. Like, in 2006, Argentina played fucking amazingly. They had that one goal, that Cambiasso goal, that's kind of like a famous goal that they scored. Look it up if you haven't seen it. They completed something like 4 billion passes before it, and then Cambiasso finished it. And if they play like that, I think it could be really fun to watch Argentina this year. A lot of people, their main criticism over Argentina is their lack of defence, but this is kind of a cliche that stretches back a few years. They have got Rowe, who is amazing on FIFA, but they've got Ezequiel Garay, who I've always thought is a really good defender. And they've got Demichelis, who, you know, a lot of people like to make fun of or whatever, but then they've got Zabaleta and Campagnaro too.
Yeah, I don't think Demichelis is anything to be laughed at. To be honest.
Don't either. He's not actually that bad.
He's made a couple of almost, you know, like big day errors. But apart from that, he's kept his starting spot in the Man City team, and you know, he's a footballer. He's not there just because he's a nice bloke.
Yeah.
He's based on his abilities and his talents.
And the thing is, Company has made mistakes this season.
I mean, if I can look at, you know, I don't know if you remember that probably the most amazing own goal I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
From Company.
That wasn't a mistake.
where he tried to clear it and he just absolutely chipped the keeper. It was magnificent. It was beautiful. And
he had that mistake against Liverpool too, where he led them in for their equaliser, I think it was. But then the Argentinian midfield, Fernando Gago, who's kind of not fallen off the grid in recent years, but he's moved back to Argentina as far as I'm aware. So I don't know a lot about him, but he was very highly rated when he was at Real Madrid. Lucas Biglia, sort of the same idea. He's playing in Italy as far as I know, but I've lost touch with him really. The big one I think is Javier Mascherano and Enzo Perez. Both of those in midfield should be pretty good, and then Angel Di Maria should be playing just ahead of them.
Di Maria's a fantastic player.
Yeah, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I mean when you're linking up with the likes of Aguero and Messi,
and Higuain,
even Higuain and Lavezzi on the other side as well.
Higuain scored a hat-trick in the opening game of the 2010 World Cup, as far as I remember, and I think that was against Nigeria. Or no, they played Nigeria for sure, because I remember people always say that Messi doesn't do it on the international level, which is nonsense, by the way. He scored something like 18 in his last 16 games for Argentina or something like that. But in 2010, Messi had so many shots that were just saved in ridiculous fashion by Enyama playing in goal for Nigeria. So I would love for Argentina to win this World Cup, and I'd love for Messi to single-handedly win every game for them, just so that people can give up with this ridiculous notion that until he wins a World Cup he can't be seen as the best. Like, shut the fuck up. That's not how football works. Like, Argentina would have won that World Cup in 1990 without Maradona. He didn't single-handedly do it. Like, you know what I mean? That's not how football works. Like, yes, he was a massive influence, particularly in the final, and that's obvious, but he didn't drag them through the group stages by himself. That's not, footballers don't do that. There's no such thing as a one-man team, and I'd love to see just that happen, so that people would just shut the fuck up and just stop being a big cunt about it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I reckon Bosnia-Herzegovina have got probably the best chance of finishing coming out of that group behind Argentina.
Yeah, they have a nice squad. Like, I really like their squad. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, especially with the likes of Dzeko up front. I mean, he's really, he does turn up for Man City, and I know it could be easy for him to get lost, especially with the likes, with the types of signing that Man City have made. He is a decent player.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a really good striker.
Yeah, he's not fucking around.
No, exactly.
Iran, have you seen Iran's camp
home kit?
Yeah,
their kit is majestic,
and they've got some custom football that has
32 panels, and it has 32 pictures of endangered animals from each of the countries that are in the World Cup.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, if people still listening, to us, but Babylon, really go and have a look at it, because it's going to be presented to. I think it was. I think I read it that it was Messi, or whoever will be captain for Argentina.
Yeah.
The football will be presented to him at the beginning of the match between Iran and Argentina.
I saw, like a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, this is in Iran where they sacrifice goats, so this is stupid." Like, look, you don't have to be cynical about everything that happens. The government in Iran are not necessarily the FA of Iran or the Football Association. If the footballing organization wants to raise awareness for endangered species, don't be a dickhead about it. Like, just accept that it's an awesome gesture, regardless of who it is. That's like saying that, I can't believe England are bringing Lallana to the World Cup when they've just voted UKIP into the EU or whatever. Like, you can't just pick and choose things to say like that can be negatively projected onto a nation. And I think that this campaign from Iran is a really nice one, and it's it's raising awareness. Like, whereas it doesn't matter if some people in Iran like to sacrifice animals, they're still raising awareness for species.
Yeah, a good cause, regardless of independence or individuals' actions. Yeah. Am I right in thinking that this is Bosnia-Herzegovina's first major tournament as a country?
I was trying to think of that myself,
because they, not recently, but they, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, they've only recently become their own nation.
Yeah, it was Serbia and Montenegro
country
in 2006.
Yeah,
and I always get confused between the two. As far as I'm aware, it is their first World Cup.
Yeah, and I mean, with the team that they've got, to be their first World Cup, and for them to probably be coming out of the group stages is a decent achievement, regardless of where they come after that.
Can you imagine if Yugoslavia was still?
Oh, bloody hell!
They would have a ridiculous squad. Like, they'd be a fucking unbelievable football team.
Yeah, that would be a hell of a team.
They should consider reuniting just for football.
just for that.
But yeah, I don't know. It's that's an interesting group, because it's a lot harder to call. Like, Nigeria aren't fucking around either. Like, they've got a fairly hard team. I think Argentina and Nigeria will make it out. I'm gonna say Nigeria.
I'm gonna pick Bosnia-Herzegovina over Nigeria personally.
Alright, fine.
End of the podcast. But yeah, so the next group will be Group G.
Yeah.
And that's Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the US.
Yeah, that's right.
Another big group, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a group. Should we start with Germany?
Yeah, they're like, a lot of people keep saying
fucking hell, that team.
They're only bringing one striker. Like, no, that's not what's happening at all. Like, Klose is the only recognised striker in the team. Yeah, but let's face it, Muller has played up top for Germany, maybe not as a striker, but as a centre forward he certainly has, and he certainly will in this tournament too. Schürrle can play as a striker. I think Schürrle's going as the number 9 as well, so
but Podolski can play as striker.
Podolski, exactly. He's one of the leading German goal scorers as a striker, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, he is.
And then I was going to say Royce as a centre forward, but he's not going anymore. But even so, we've just listed 4 players who are all more than capable of playing there. So Germany have a fucking awesome team, in all fairness, from top to bottom. I know their manager came out recently and said that they're not ready to win it yet, but I think that's just a tactic that, one of those hashtag mind games.
Hashtag mind games.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, what more can you say about the German squad? I mean, it is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, the midfield alone is nothing to look at, nothing to overlook.
Yeah, it's an awesome midfield.
I mean, having the likes of Schweinsteiger, Özil, Müller, Kuss, Goetze, even young players coming in like Draxler. I mean, he's had a great season for Schalke.
Yeah, he has, and he can play as a centre forward too, can't he?
Yeah, he can. Yeah, isn't that his native position, or does he play the number 10?
I think he plays as a left winger, but the theory behind him was that he'd be better as a more centralised player, and that's what Wenger had wanted for him initially, was to bring him in and play him in that type of position. So I'm just assuming that he can. I've never seen him do it, but I'm assuming that he can. But they have an abundance of quality in every aspect of their team. Supposedly, though, Neuer is on the injury list, or the potential might not make it list.
Yeah, but I mean, then behind him, they've still got, you know, two relatively decent keepers. I mean, Weidenfeller's Weidenfeller for Borussia Dortmund. I think this is his first call up at the age of 33, which is kind of ridiculous.
No one will ever top Oliver Kahn. I fucking love Oliver Kahn.
I know.
What a goalkeeper.
But I mean, even in their back line, having Lahm, Berting, Hummels, Mertesacker, the list can go on. But I mean, doesn't Lahm prefer to play in the centre now?
Oh well, that's where Pep Guardiola has put him. It's just such a Pep Guardiola thing to do, to take a right back and play him there. But he's never played there for Germany, and I don't think he'll play there for this tournament either. We move on to the Portuguese team. They've always the cliche about Portugal every tournament, regardless of when it is that they've got great players, but they don't really have a lot of strikers. Growing up, it was always Pauleta was the main man for Portugal, and even then, he never really played at the highest level, I don't think. He played in France for a long time. Scored a lot of goals for Portugal, mind you, like a pretty good player. But their midfield has always been amazing, and that's referenced, the likes of Miguel. Whatever happened to Miguel Veloso? He was one of those players that was supposed to be the next, I don't know.
I don't know, but he's still in the team.
Yeah, he is, yeah. João Moutinho is in there as well. William Carvalho is a pretty highly rated player who I honestly don't know a lot about. But Raul Morelos might not make it, supposedly, which would be a loss for them, I think.
He's definitely got, well, not the most experience, but he's got a hell of a lot of experience in the team. Yeah. But especially being one of the older players.
Yeah. Nani, it's hard to really big Nani up, but he does play well for Portugal. And then obviously Cristiano, who he's a pretty good player, is Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah,
he's an okay chap. I mean, saying that no one man can take a team. No man can win. Yeah. A game for a team.
Single-handedly, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, Cristiano Ronaldo will try.
Yeah, he will. Yeah.
He will. If there's anybody in that team that's gonna be slamming in the goals, I mean, sure, he's got a fantastic service and fantastic players around him at Real Madrid, but that doesn't change the fact that he can go on a solo run through the middle of several world-class defenders and thump it into the back of the net.
Yeah, and I hope he does,
regardless of who he's up against.
I love watching Ronaldo play, I really do. Ghana and the United States get to renew their rivalry from 2006 that I may or may not have just made up. I'm pretty sure they played in the group stages of 2006. I don't know if I made that up or not, but it's really tough for both of those nations, because Ghana had a great tournament in 2010 where they made it to the quarterfinals, and they were knocked out by Luis Suarez's hand. Do you know, what do you think? I think that when Suarez did that handball on the line thing, I think that's fair enough. I think that's he sacrificed.
That handball on the line was tactical genius play.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It's
as much as I'd love to say that it is the biggest scumbag move, but it is tactical genius.
It's scumbag within the rules of the game. Yeah. Which makes it not necessarily he bit someone. That's scumbag.
Yeah, that is scumbag. That is out and out scumbag.
Yeah, but stopping a ball on the line with his hand, sacrificing himself for a chance, is not. I can't, if an Irish player did that and got sent off for it and we ended up winning the game as a result of it, that makes that player great to me. There's no way I can look at that objectively and say, well, that's just awful. It's sad for Ghana, but at the same time they had a penalty and they missed it, so that was their chance. Suarez just risked them, he
well, they were either look at it this way. Either way they were going to score. He just lessened the chance of them scoring.
Yeah, and as a result of it, they didn't score.
Yeah, exactly, and they continued that game. And as far as I'm concerned, that is, saying, the game's bigger than the man, and that is, he put his reputation, he put everything on the line, literally, to for them to win the game.
Yeah,
and they did. Yeah. And you can't you know.
No, you can't dispute that.
You can't dispute that.
Yeah, that's just... I thought that was a good thing to do. Like, that's a sign of a man who just wants to win, and that's what he's prepared to do. He sacrificed himself despite being a big player, and I think that I don't know. I will never hate Suarez for that. Like, and I'll say for that specifically because he's done a lot of questionable things beyond that. But the United States, I said before, I'd love for them to get through the group. But I think even the feeling in America is that they don't have a chance. It's just going to be good for the young players to get a run out and get a little bit of World Cup experience.
Well, I mean, especially in the group with Portugal and Germany.
Yeah.
You know, they're really going to struggle. Especially, I think, you know, you'll really see how the kind of the youth of the US side when they play Germany.
Yeah.
Because I reckon Germany will run rings around them.
I think so. Yeah, that'll be like a 4-0.
Even if they don't play their strongest team, it's not exactly going to. You know, I mean, there's a reason that the US league kind of hasn't really taken off yet, and until it does, I really don't think that US have a massive chance of winning the World Cup.
No, not at all.
You know,
but yeah, what you said there is interesting because they have amazing facilities for sports in America. It's just that there are sports ahead of it in terms of prioritizing or whatever. But if the USA worked on their, you know, entire football game, like soccer, whatever, like if the US actually put money into that, they could win the World Cup within like 12 years probably. You reckon that's all it would? Well, maybe 16 years because you've got to let the youngsters come through and, you know, learn the game from the ground up. But I think they have the population and the finances to do it, and it's kind of amazing that they aren't better than they are. But then you consider they've got NFL, they've got basketball, they've got baseball.
Yeah, and I think with you know, David Beckham creating the Miami, he's building a Miami team, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
And, you know, arguably the biggest name in football.
Yeah.
At the moment,
yeah, for sure.
You know, playing or retired, you know, he's going to bring a lot to the MLS.
Yeah, I think so.
with that alone.
Yeah, it'd be exciting if America.
So, you know, expect America in, say, what, 2030?
Yep.
Or whenever the World Cup is around. Then I can't bother to figure out.
18, 22, 26. Yep, 2030.
I'm bad with maths. Yep, sweet.
There we go.
Sweet. Yeah, expect the 2030 World Cup to be the US's World Cup.
Yeah. That'll happen.
So that's going to come back to me in 16 years.
Yeah.
And someone's going to be like, remember what you said?
I'm not even going to be alive
16 years
then,
ago.
I don't care.
No, yeah, I'll be amazed if I am, to be honest.
So what are we saying? Germany, Portugal, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks that way.
I think that's the smart person's choice.
Yeah. So the final group: Belgium, Algeria, Russia, and South Korea.
Yeah.
Group H.
Yeah, we've got everybody's favourite, Belgium.
Yeah, a lot of people think Belgium are going to win it.
Yeah.
Like, I have some bad news for you. They're not.
They're not. No, yeah. I think they've got the youngest. You know, they've got the lowest average age of players in the whole tournament.
Yeah, which just sums up why they're not going to win it.
You know.
Really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no matter how good player, you know, no matter how good of a goalkeeper Courtois is, no matter how many good players that they've got in the team, that's not going to stop, you know, more experienced players.
Yeah.
You know, knocking in a few goals.
Yeah, they're exciting for sure, and they've got a very nice squad, but this won't be their tournament. I think Euro 2016 is where you'll really see them come into fruition, should they achieve their potential, which I think they should. That, like, the foundations have been laid pretty solidly for Belgium, and they are an exciting team. But this isn't going to be their tournament, and I think people who think so are kidding themselves. And as I say all this, I can just envision them winning it, and my comment section
exploding.
Yeah, this video will be deleted
I think
before that happens.
they'll have an exciting few games in the group stages, and they'll make it out of the group stages.
Yeah.
But what happens after that is, you know,
Yeah.
they'll come out top of the group.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon
I
so.
think Russia might do it.
You reckon?
I have a weird feeling about Russia.
I don't know. I feel like even with their, you know, even being that young, I still reckon they've got a better chance.
South Korea are a really good World Cup team too. They finished fourth in 2002. Like, they made it to the semis. So, albeit a lot of people will say, but that match was fixed, and, like, probably was. But, like, they are a good team. They've got a good team spirit, and they've got a fairly decent crop of players too. I don't know. I think that group isn't as clear cut as it seems. I'm not gonna say, like, I wanted to make some bold predictions, but I don't think that people on YouTube have the patience to let you away with a lot of predictions that you get wrong, even if you specify that they're bold. But I think between South Korea and Russia and Belgium, it's actually really difficult to pick who's going to come out of that group. And I don't think it's even as clear-cut as Belgium and Russia or Korea. Like, I think that group could surprise a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at it this way. Whoever's coming out of that group in first, whoever's coming out of that group, top of that group, is most likely going to be going into playing Portugal.
Yeah.
And then whoever else is coming out of that group second is going into playing Germany.
Yeah.
And those are two, those are two teams that would probably outright win that group regardless.
Yeah, true.
So
whoever's coming out of that group,
they're not gonna make it much further.
No.
Unfortunately,
So basically,
we
all
haven't
of
really
this
paid
group
attention.
will be gone by the time that the quarterfinals roll around, so it won't matter at all. We've just done all the groups, and I think we should make some bold predictions, and put a disclaimer on it and say, these are a list of predictions that we know are outlandish, but could happen. And I think something like Spain being knocked out before the semi-finals could happen. No European team has ever won a World Cup in South America. That's what I've been told anyway. Who do you think is going to win the tournament outright?
I'd be tempted to say that Brazil will win it.
Yeah.
Outright.
Yeah.
Brazil, the quote on, Brazil's, it's the host nation. I know the host nation isn't a kind of guaranteed thing, but especially with the likes of Neymar, I'm gonna say Neymar will be top scorer for the competition.
Yeah. Well, if the Confederations Cup is anything to go by, which it should be, they were fucking amazing in that.
Yeah.
And Neymar especially.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise
Exactly. I'm
me.
gonna say that Neymar will score the winning goal in the final for Brazil, and he'll stand there at the end of the game and just ascend into heaven.
Yeah.
And and that'll be it.
I want nothing more than for that to happen.
Just for him to score and for him to start running, and he just takes off like the car at the end of Greece.
Yeah.
Just into the sky, and he just keeps running. And never returns.
The first World Cup that I watched was '98, and I didn't really remember a lot of it. I enjoyed watching it. I remember Ronaldo, Luis Nazário de Lima, that Ronaldo, the Brazilian one. I remember him being incredible at it. But the 2002 World Cup is a World Cup that I remember every goal from. It was the first one that I was properly engrossed in because I loved football at the time of it happening, and Ireland were in it as well, which was obviously a huge help. But I remember Brazil in that tournament, and they weren't they had Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho up front, which is just a fucking amazing combination. And they did really well in the way that they were regimented. Their defense to midfield worked really well to feed the main trio, the trios or whatever. They did a fantastic job, and they didn't exactly turn on the samba thing all the time, but when it was asked of them, it just sort of flowed naturally. The fluidity just came out of their play. The idea of Brazil being that samba team that everyone associates them with hasn't really been true for a long time, but their manager is Luis Felipe Scolari, who managed them in 2002 and got them all the way to the final and won the World Cup with them in 2002. So it's interesting that 12 years later he takes the reins again for a team that has exciting young prospects like Neymar and like Oscar and players like that. I don't know if they'll be ready for a victory of a tournament like this, but I would love to see it happen. It would be a really good story, I think. But I'm going to say Argentina. Fuck everything I just said. I'm gonna go for Argentina as the winners, just because that would be pretty cool. They're playing on foreign soil as well, in the form of their rivals, as it were. Argentina and Brazil have some kind of rivalry or whatever. So I'm gonna say Argentina, just to be a cunt about it, really.
No, yeah. That should be interesting. So it's gonna be an Argentina Brazil final then.
That would be.
Is that what we're saying?
That would be unbelievable if that happened. I don't even know if statistically it can happen. Cause
let's just say it can.
Alright then. Then yes, that's what it will be. An all South American final.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing game to watch, actually. But yeah, and I think Portugal will be gone by before the semi-final. Well, Portugal are going to knock England out on penalties, right? That's what always happens. So.
No.
But yeah, that's I don't know. That's been the World Cup. Are we done here?
The World Cup episode. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Football is not really I didn't really want to ever do a podcast that talks about football because nothing is more divisive than the opinions of football fans. So we did everything in a pretty laid back and diplomatic way. So if you didn't like it, fuck you. No, just kidding. Yeah, if you didn't like it, whatever, normal service will resume next week. We're going to be talking about... What did we talk about?
I have no idea. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, next episode will be about superstitions, and it was supposed to be out today, but you guys all wanted a World Cup special, so we did the best that we can. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for listening, and Jack, thanks for coming on.
No worries.
Yeah, fuck this. We're done.
Sweet.